Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Dwayne Menezes and I'm a board member at Think Film impACT Production. For more than 600 years, the Roma have been an integral part of Europe. Needless to say, this history has often been complicated, with the Roma facing systematic marginalization, persecution, and oppression, even to the point of expulsions and potential extermination. Nevertheless, the Roma, in all of their heterogeneity and plurality, with their different identities, languages, religions, nationalities and cultures and experiences, have richly shaped and been shaped by the many histories, identities and cultures of Europe, constantly devising ways to preserve and perpetuate their cultural heritage. From Cervantes' novella La Gitania to Victor Hugo's novel The Hunchback of Notre Dame, from Pushkin's narrative The Gypsies to Baudelaire's poem Gypsies Travelling, from Verdi's opera Il Trovatore to Bizet's Carmen, from the art of Caravaggio to Picasso, the Roma have been at once objects of fascination and admiration and also derision to so many of Europe's greatest painters, poets, novelists, and wider still in Europe's public imagination for centuries. Yet so much of this knowledge production about the Roma has been undertaken by non-Roma for non-Roma consumption, that while representations of Roma do abound in Europe's arts, media, and culture, these representations construct and reinforce unhelpful, dangerous, and offensive stereotypes that further mystify and marginalize the Roma. The same holds true for film, where the Roma often get completely forgotten and unrepresented, or when they do get represented, they're simply mocked and dehumanized. Given the enormous power that film commands to make and break stereotypes, the questions that really need to be asked are: how do the Roma get represented? To what extent do they get represented? Who represents them? And more. That is why this panel, hosted today by Think Film impACT Production, is so timely and important. And we are grateful that you have chosen to be here with us this afternoon. So without further ado, let me introduce our panelists briefly. We have Guillermo García López to my left, a filmmaker from Spain, whose first film, Fragile Equilibrio, won the Goya for Best Documentary Feature. Alina Şerban, an actress who won the Best Actress Award at the German Actors Guild Award for her role in Gypsy Queen. Timea Junghaus, Executive Director of the European Roma Institute for Arts and Culture, and Zeljko Jovanovic, Chairman of the Board at the European Roma Institute of Arts and Culture, ERIAC. So let's start with perhaps having each one of you describe in a few lines what you do, what your organisations do, and how they tie to Roma issues. Guillermo, could we perhaps start with you? Or perhaps Timea?
Sure. ERIAC, the European Roma Institute for Arts and Culture, which I serve as the executive director, is the first transnational institute for the recognition of Roma arts and culture. It is a membership-based organization. We have 331 members with a very strong film and media section. And some of the members, Alina Şerban, Tony Gatliff, Dorantes, are known to all of us. They are international characters, iconic characters of the arts and culture scene. And ERIAC has an interest in activating and driving Roma participation in film. So thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much. Zeljko, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, thank you, Danielle, and the whole Think Film team for having us here. I was one of the initiators of European Roma Institute for Arts and Culture as part of my job actually in Open Society Foundation, which is the biggest foundation in the world that supports Roma in Europe. We understood that the question of Roma situation in Europe is a question of how institutions treat the Roma. So instead of fighting as individuals. What I'm trying to do with many people like Timea is to build our own institutions that we lead and we cooperate with other organizations for our own interests.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Alina?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Alina, as you said, and I'm a storyteller. I use film and theater both as an actress and director, a scriptwriter, producer, to really put a human face and not the stereotype on this bridge between us, to try to build a bridge between the Roma and non-Roma. And I have done this for the last 14 years, and I became, luckily, but also unfortunately, because it's so late, really, the first Roma woman director of Romania for film and theater.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I, last year, I became the first Roma woman part of the National Theatre in the permanent repertoire of the National Theatre in Bucharest.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you as
such
well.
a pleasure to have all of you. Guillermo?
Yes, well, hello, thank you for inviting me. It's such an honor to be here sitting with you guys. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director from Madrid, Spain. As you said, I did a feature documentary years ago, and after that I've been working for many years in an area close to Madrid where there is a big Roma community there, along with other Moroccan communities and other nationalities, but mostly Roma. This place was moving me from the very first moment. Maybe later I developed more, and drove me to start developing some film workshops there with Roma kids in the field. And I did a short film, which is now in official selection in competition. It's called Aunque es de Noche, and I'm preparing a feature related to the same artistic elements to this short, and I develop here in the residence of the Cine Fundación, the Festival de Cannes, and well, this is the work that I'm doing now.
Thank you very much, Guillermo. So let's dive into the questions now. How have the Roma been represented in European art and culture over the past centuries, and in particular in film? Would anyone like to go first?
Am I the one to break
Yes.
the ice again?
Yes, please.
I think that it's important to state that Roma have been in Europe for a millennia. When it comes to Europeans' experience with the other, it doesn't happen in Tahiti like for Gauguin or Aix-en-Provence like for Van Gogh. It happens with the closest Roma settlement on the edge of the city, or actually in the middle of the city in a Roma ghetto. When artists are looking for inspiration for the savage, for the primitive, they turn to their closest Roma communities. And unfortunately, a lot of representations are based on stereotypes, such as feminizations, sexualizations, criminalization of the dark-skinned Roma people. And also some truths, like music is in our blood. That's not a stereotype, that's actually true.
Excellent.
It isn't. I just want to say also from the perspective of what means to be Roma girl and growing up, really, and I was never represented, never, really. I only could see maybe in a telenovela people that were not Roma and they were with the circus, and then I will ask my mom, but where is the circus, mom? Like, we are not like them. Or then in the media, obviously always the bad stories. And that would obviously have a great impact personally on you, because unfortunately discrimination becomes self-hate. And it's not only the fear of others towards us, but it's also we fear them too. And really, that was my drive to start creating and to tell the story, because I couldn't see myself represented. I only saw myself in very bad stories where, again, people would not have trust when it's about the Roma. So that's why I just wanted to show people we are just like them, obviously with our uniqueness, but we are human. And on this base of universal humanity, you you built your uniqueness, your voice. So then, finally, someone could empathize with the Roma. We do not have that. People are not used to feel sorry, to feel feelings towards a Roma person. It's usually the fear, I'm sorry to say, the disgust, I don't want you, but never, the empathy, the solidarity. And I think that's where the arts come. That's where filmmakers should understand their responsibility, because we either put something good and we build this bridge between us, or we make greater this really how should I call it, this distance, this wall between us, which actually, and now I will break the another ice, Kusturica didn't help either with his films. I'm glad that there were Roma people having a job in a film. I'm glad that Romanes was spoken. But then again, when I turn as a female Roma director to producers, they're like, but no dancing, but no, it's just human people. Human people? You have feelings? No, nothing like the freedom? So it's harder for me now to come with a story like the Roma slavery, a story about what means to be Roma girl and institutionalized, which would be hopefully my first feature, the one that I'm developing now. It's hard for producers to understand that it's a necessity for human stories. It's about a Roma, but it's first of all human. Because when you say Roma, then they will want you to cater to their stereotypes of the exotism, of the villain. And then when you come only with a girl that is living in this world and deals with this world as a Roma and a girl and institutionalized, they are like, but it's not the Roma thing. I hope...
Absolutely, that's so powerful, and so it leads me to the next question. Would anyone else like to jump in?
I just want to deepen this point on Kusturica.
Yeah.
Because this is the place that catapulted Kusturica to the stars, right? But when Kusturica won awards here, I and many others had a bitter taste, because he won his awards but portrayed us as chaotic, disorganized, stinky, dirty, and so on. He got all the awards. And when you ask a deeper question, how is this possible? It's possible because it's a business model. The stereotypes about Roma sell. And this is what we have to reverse here and now.
That's fascinating.
Yes, well, it's incredible it's fantastic to listen to you, and of course I won't repeat what you said specifically now as a filmmaker, because I cannot be more agreeing. In my case, when I approach, now I will talk about the project that I'm doing, which is, I think, what brought me here. First of all, I was impressed. I was moved by the place that I was portraying, the world, the universe of this settlement. No, this settlement is not a Roma settlement. Let's say it's a settlement with humans, with many different ethnicities, and from the very first moment, I understood that it's of course it's not a film about Roma. It's a film about this place, this world, this universe, where there are Roma people, are like many other people are there, no? So my approach in the script and the artistic elements of the film were always, I was trying always to, of course, I carry, because we carry, it's unavoidable to understand that we carry a lot of stereotypes in the cultural heritage, and me too. I was even always understanding that I had them, no, as a Spanish, when we all of us know what happened in Spain with the Gitanos, and so I was trying always to focus on the idea that, okay, I'm doing a film. Film is about art, it's about human, and this is how I treat how I try to treat the script. If I arrive to a point that I'm seeing that in the script there are some elements that are brought by the characters, which are Roma, and I cannot avoid that. I mean, they are Roma, so they listen to flamenco in their house 24 hours. Why not to put this flamenco? But of course, this is not the point. This is not the first arrival, no? So I think from a political perspective, I tried to find a story and a line of work where I just work on, in my case, for instance, family relationships, which we can see in all the bourgeoisie films about the families in the films, many films that we can see here, and amazing. But so I was thinking, okay, why not to explore this in this settlement that is portrayed, as you said, in the images of TV, always like the same, the morbosity of people screaming around, selling drugs, people living in bad conditions. Of course they live in bad conditions, and we cannot hide it, And I don't do films that are, my films are kind of more dark than white, let's say, so I cannot escape that. So I see that, I see the reality, but I prefer to focus more on the family relationships. Like, everyone has family relationships in many different class, races, and ethnicities. This exists. This is universal. So from there, the unicity and the specificity of every character comes up with all the beauty, So this, at least, this is the approach that I was trying to have, no?
No, brilliant. Thank you so much. I mean, building on all of your points, I mean, are there films in which, what I notice is when I watch films about the Roma, or just that feature Roma and some, characters, it's almost as if the Roma are often brought in to add some colour, some excitement. The fortune tellers, the flamenco dancers, sometimes it's negative, like the seducers. So my question to you really is, are there films where Roma are essential to the plot, and where you cannot just replace the Roma with some other ethnic minority, and then it all gets dissolved? So perhaps, Timea, you're nodding in agreement. Do you want to break the ice again?
I think Zeljko is more passionate about
okay,
this
Zeljko,
than I am.
No, I'm just a simple, everyday audience for the movies. And, one of the rare occasions when I felt as an individual person watching a movie where I say, oh, I can identify with this and I feel good about this movie, is Peaky Blinders. Because you have characters which are smarter, sharper, more courageous, and they're protagonists. Okay, they're mafia and they're violent and so on, but they are protagonists. Audience can like them. They cheer for them to win against Italian mafia, by Jewish mafia, by British mafia, by the Americans. It doesn't matter. At the end, you have also the Nazis in the game, but you can feel good about it. The emotion is strong, positive, unlike most of the movies that I watch. But here again, I think one thing is to look at the final product, what the movies show, but another one is to look at the industry in the institutions behind it. This is why we are here. This is why I'm so grateful to Think Film, because we are touching beyond the appearance. We are looking at the system, and the system here is a problem because the incentives are still aligned that stereotypes about Roma sell. And ultimately there is a responsibility for reversing that, because Kusturica and others made a lot of money, made a lot of fame, and also brought a lot to the Cannes Festival, not only the other way around. So there is a responsibility here in this place to reverse this. And this is not just about changing one stereotype for another. It is much deeper game. It's about investing in structural change, in reversing how this institution is built. That's why we built European Roma Institute for Arts and Culture, to make change systemic in the long run, not to have one actor or one story or one movie next to 1,000 other movies. So this place here is where we want to ultimately position a structural change, not a change of a character, not a change of a story, but an overall narrative and business incentives.
Thank you.
At the same time, I want to make sure that we understand that the stereotypes tell us much more about the imagination of the non-Roma in a really perverse, almost perverse way. We learn so much about these secrets and imagined characters that have nothing to do with us. And when we look at the real characters, how do they end up on the movie screen? We realize that this 1 millennia of living together really means that we Roma contributed to every single nation, and we contributed as a diaspora on the global level with our knowledge on the universe. Let's just say, okay, tarot, before the printing industry was discovered, tarot was the system of communication. Images were the system of communication. And then, of course, later, moving images became a system of communication. So what I am trying to say is the characters are coming from this true history of living together, and Roma offering our knowledge, our skills in transferring our knowledge, also our knowledge about the planet, the universe, nature, and spirituality. When we hear Europe and Western society speak about mindfulness, this is something that has been a core to the Roma community. In other ways, you cannot survive under continuous history of genocides, evictions, chases, violences, if you do not develop spiritual practices of understanding yourself as one with everyone else. So these knowledges that are reflected in really essentialized stereotypes exist, and we need to make sure that we are able to say complex characters. We are able to express complexities, and this is why film is an excellent industry to break the stereotypes and break the structures that we have together.
Thank you very much. Amazing answers. Anyone else would like to contribute? Alina, Guillermo?
Yeah, I would say that, for example, for me, Peaky Blinders would not be a great example of something it represents me, because it's, again, caters to stereotypes, to Roma people doing wrong things, because as if we have it in the blood. I do understand the reasons for which Zeljko was mentioning it, and I hope we would be able to state many examples. And I myself, as a actress, producer, director, I'm happy and blessed to say that I put in the world the stories I needed as a child, that my community needed. And I'm happy to say that I was here in 2018 with Sola Mon Mariage, Alone at My Wedding. And for this film, I have to say that, yes, I did fight with the director. I did fight with all the team so that we will not have a stereotypical Roma film in Cannes. So yes, I did do what other actors might never do at their first feature, because usually actors comply. Yeah, they say, yes, director, what do you want me to do? But obviously for me, portraying a Roma in my first feature was not just a project. For me, obviously, it's a huge responsibility. And I knew for her it might be just a project, but for me, people would ask me questions. People would want me to not do the same as others and not just think of my role there. So my seat would be okay. And then I'm happy that this film is out, that we can see and we can rejoice in that we had representation in Cannes with Sola Mon Mariage in acid selection, and thankfully Gypsy Queen, for example, it's an example of a film that is not perfect, but it's a letter of love to the Roma community, to dignity, to what means being a mom, to what means being a parent, to what means not having chances, access to resources. So I'm blessed to say that as a storyteller, I put there the stories that I needed. But then what I have to say is that these stories, because they were not catering to stereotypes, they don't have the same open doors as other stories have. So obviously, it's very important who is the main character of a feature. And to be honest with you, many people wanted Gypsy Queen to have just a German girl that was not Roma in the main character, and it would have been in Cannes. So basically, the business of the business says a lot about the success of a film. So it's not just the creative part of it. And in my case, as a director, when I approach producers, I need them to understand that it will not cater to the stereotypes, but I need them to understand that it's a Roma voice and that I should have artistic freedom in the script. That I don't want a co-writer non-Roma, because that obviously would, yes, there are many people with good intentions, okay? I worked with non-Roma directors that have good intentions. But when we don't have Roma as a conductor of the boat, you might never really reach the bottom of this unicity, this unique voice, the nuances that we need to put across there. We hope in, I don't know how many years, a Roma film not to be special, to be just a film like other films.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Yes, actually, this is something that I would like to talk to you, because this thing of a film about Roma, what is that? Because a film, first of all, is a film. It's a form of art. Ideally, there wouldn't be topics. There would be the art, the characters, the emotions on the top of that. So, but it's difficult, of course. In this industry, there is this need to tag, and for the producers, also on the distribution and all the decision makers, to understand which are these selling points that are sometimes also very terrible for us as creators, you know. So maybe it's what you say, no? Maybe the future is a future when we don't see that in the top. Of course, we are diverse as humans are, no? But I would again repeat this idea that maybe also from the industry, and as you said, from the institution and from the money sources, to understand what they are really doing, and really respecting the voices, the artistic voices that are in the film, to point, no, that we are not doing this. Even if it sells, maybe you need to hide it, and try to sell the film without using these selling points. It's a challenge because the industry is a machine, and maybe this looks like a very Quixotesque, but this is what I see. And when we were talking about the film I'm doing, it's not a film about Roma. Even if someone could say that very fast. Why? Because there is a Roma character, which is strange. Because they are, no, is not very represented, so it becomes something to put on the top, no?
Yeah, I could say that, for example, there are films that, like the one that won in Berlinare, Radu Jude's film about, among other topics, it was about the Roma slavery, but it was among other topics. This was not a film per se about the Roma slavery, but people would sell it this way. The Roma would come to see this film, Aferim, and we would wait to be represented. We would wait with so much joy that, wow, a film about the Roma slavery, but it isn't. It's a film about this police guy who is really speaking with his son, like half of the film about how his son should behave in the world. And they catch a slave. But when I did my first short film about the Roma slavery, about a Roma slave trying to free her son, by a journalist in Romania, I was asked, so Alina Şerban, what else do you have to say about the Roma slavery after Radu Jude, who I respect and admire, and he's a friend and a supporter, after Radu Jude won in Berlinare and won so many projects, what else do you have to say about the topic? So first of all, I am at my debut with a short film about the Roma slavery, and then I'm told, what else do you have to say? The power relations first about being a woman director, it's with red flags, okay? But then being a Roma in only white space in the arts being an exclusivist still domain, which is, I'm sorry to say, not open to anybody that wants to create. It's really not. It's not everybody welcomed. I have to put it there. It's a social thing, it's an ethnic thing, it's a cultural thing. An economical thing, exactly. Social. This is what I mean.
Class. I mean,
yeah, it's class. It's class to get to do films, to get in the arts. It's not. I'm actually a weirdo. I'm coming from a family where I'm the first one who has been to high school. I know what it's like not to have electricity. So I come from a very, very poor background. I am just a weirdo in the artistic world. So when I am asked, what else do you have to say about the Roma slavery, it comes from a privileged white perspective that doesn't want to listen my perspective. So it's really about also educating our kids, our societies, that we reach this point because of the lack of institutional support, because of the economics, and also because of the ignorance, that we are not educated enough to hear other people's narratives. And when you say about it's not a Roma film, but it's with a Roma, I agree and disagree. Because I myself, for example, in Solamo Mariage, when I was fighting the director and say, no, I won't want to do that because that's stereotypical, she would say, but it's not a Roma film. And I said, but you took a Roma woman from a Roma village and you wanted everything to be Roma. And when I am challenging you, it's not a Roma film. And I said, no, this is a Roma film. Because I am a Roma woman playing a Roma woman from a Roma culture. So obviously, there are nuances and nuances. It's not all this and this, but it needs to be talked. And people's voices need to be seated at the table so them too would not feel that someone's making them a favor, that they should have an equal seat at the table.
Thank you very much. I mean, my next question is going to be directed either to Maya or to Zeljko. And if you could answer rather quickly. Roma, let's go to 101, the basics. What terms are used to refer to the Roma? Terms such as gypsies. How controversial are they? And what should be the right way to refer to Roma communities? So let's start with something every person here might be wondering. Like, what is the right term to use?
Yes. So it's nice that we are doing a terminology at half time of the panel. So the Roma are the largest minority of Europe, 12 million people, present in every European state. And as I said, a history of a millennia in Europe. So we contribute as the citizens of each European state. And we actually, the most important question, I think, is when it comes to terminologies, what is politically correct? Nah, this is such a boring topic, we use Roma today because we're having an English language conversation, and also because ERIAC is a Council of Europe funded institute, so we use the Council of Europe definition, and Roma describes all the subgroups. Now there's 23 subgroups over 27 dialects in Europe. For Roma language. And the 23 subgroups, you know them very well from your own country. So the Gitana in Spain, the Kale in the Scandinavian countries, and the Kalderash in Sweden. And then the Lovari, and I could continue forever, the Lovari Beash in Central and Eastern Europe. But we refer to these subgroups together as the Roma minority, as I said, 12 million people. So, we could easily introduce a quota, film industry, 2% of everything we spend shall go towards Roma representation, It would be so easy, but I think that this is how we come out of a Roma discussion, exactly talking about terminology. Because when we speak about the Roma minority, we really speak about how is the film industry taking this turning point of self-reflection? How are scriptwriters, producers make an actual commitment to avoid misrepresentation, and how do producers cooperate in financing authentic, legitimate images of all minorities? And this requires partners who are ready to contribute, to consult, to connect, and create platforms for the discussions that are necessary for all of us to cooperate in changing the film world first and then the world.
Well, thank you very much. That's really helpful. Building on that, and this is building on something you said earlier, Alina, who makes films with Roma characters? Who plays Roma roles? And in film, do you have to be a member of the group to make a good film about it, or to play a character from the group?
If I can just say quickly on this, that after 14 years of trying to tell Roma stories as best as I could, when people approach me about a project, I say, if I do not have artistic power in a project, I am not in. If it's about Roma people, I am not going to be in if I don't have a say in it. Obviously, if you ask me to play Mercutio, yeah, why not? It's your project. Tell me, how would I bend there? But if it's the Roma, if it's about the Roma culture, either I can decide or I'm not a part of it. And I have read recently many bad scripts, I have to say, with people that again consider us the free people. They dance, they just walk and dance. No, they dance and walk. They're not sure about this. And suddenly I have to kill the joy and say, either you cut this and this and this and this and this and this. But there's also some positive change I've seen in the last 10 years that because of maybe the boredness of politically correctness and the world, they also tend to pay consultants that are Roma. So they might not have really a power, but they at least consult. So it's a step towards having a more of a Roma voice in projects that are not written or directed by Roma, which is still a step. I would also say that if I can just go back to an example of a film like Chambria, it was in the competition of Cannes, and I was happy that, wow, a black character with a Roma boy, wow, oh, humanness, oh, bondness, oh, and then again we leave the room thinking that the Roma, these Roma people, they don't behave well, man. They are not to be trusted. And I was so furious because the director, went in a way just because it was more interesting, and this is also another point of films in general. Men need a better representation too. Men in general, women in general. We need just people, people who respect each other. Men also, small boys, they need representation. If you ask them, tell me a role model in a male, small boys will not know. And maybe girls as well. So this idea that in the film it needs to be this dark character who beats up the woman and all that, and the girl needs, I don't know. It's also something twisted about the idea of storytelling in general.
Brilliant. Zeljko, over to
Just add something on the terminological discussion. I don't want it to that we finish with let's not talk about political correctness. I'm sorry. There is something in political correctness too. If you want to offend someone, you will use the term gypsy. Mm-hmm. If you want to respect someone, you will use the term they'll use themselves. Mm-hmm. In our own language, we say we are Roma. Gypsy is non-Roma word for us. So there is no question about that. Second, I agree with Alina. The first step is that Roma have a say on stories, characters, narratives about Roma. Fine. But I want to go one step further. That Alina can have a say on movie that is not about Roma. How many years we've been waiting to have a movie with American president being black or American president being a woman? So that's where we should be heading. We should not be twisting now Roma for Roma, non-Roma for non-Roma. No. We have to go beyond that. And this is why, for me, in terms of stories and for the industry, I want this audience to understand this. In the film industry, at least as someone who likes to watch movies, there is always a character that is an underdog. It's an individual or a family. In European history, we have been an underdog community. And in our community, when you grow up being Roma, and usually Alina speaks about that, you are born into a family that speaks minimum 2 languages. If you live next to another minority, you speak automatically 3 languages. Then you have all the problems that you might face because of the racism, so you have to be smarter, more courageous, more entrepreneurial, more adaptive. You are shaped to be a better, faster than your environment, so you can survive. And that underdog story does not only help the film industry, it helps society, because what we are effectively discussing here is how to strike a better balance between profit, artistic awards on the one side, and social responsibility on the other side. This is where we are actually heading. It's not about only Roma for Roma movies, Roma for Roma characters. It's where is the social responsibility. And this underdog community, our community, my community, can tell you more about social and political flaws, obstacles, problems than any other social survey. We can tell you when education policy is failing. We can tell you when market is failing. We can tell you when film industry is failing, because you feel it on us. We can also tell you what are the solutions, because if the solutions work for the most disadvantaged, if the solutions work for the most marginalized, they will work for everyone else. So this is also a catalyst, a sense of purification, when you look at the stories that are peripheral, marginalized, stories of underdogs and how underdogs succeed. What are the conditions that underdogs can succeed? Will be the conditions that moves individuals, persons, groups, and societies forward. We can learn from these stories. So this is not only a story how the Roma live better. It's about how our societies move. And this is a social responsibility that has been lacking in the balance in Cannes, in Berlin, and everywhere else. This is the balance we have to strike better if we want to move our societies. Otherwise, we are going backward.
Thank you. That's really amazing. Do you want to comment? Or?
Yes. I have it's a debate. It's a strong debate, this thing, because on one side, if we choose the elements of the art form, at least the way I intend films and the way I intend cinema, if we choose all these elements, always from this ideology, this ideology as the other one that is very bad, very discriminative, we can end up also sometimes in situations that we see also films that, in terms of film, let's say art form, you see a lot the hand, you see a lot the intention, and I don't know how positive it can be, because it can create also a bit of rejection. It creates a contra stereotype, let's say, and it's very dangerous too. And as creators, we need to be very aware about that. The same way that I try to be all aware I can when I have in my film, but not only Roma, other many communities that I've been doing in all my films, which are very different from the world. And more discriminated they are, you see the same, you have the same debates, you have the same problems everywhere, no? And so we need to be aware, of course, in all of this. So study a lot, read a lot, talk a lot, ask for consultancy, for good consultancy, not the sellers of consultancy. You know, people that have been there.
But Guillermo, can I just intervene a little bit here? Alina said something very true earlier, and we should not forget that. Marginalized, oppressed, internalized the stereotype. So it's not just, let's have just any Roma that will confirm the stereotype, because you have a lot of that. We need to have a social mission in mind. It is not only the color of the person, the culture of the person. Of course, we bring the color and culture, and also but we also bring internalized stereotypes. So we need to have the goal in mind, not only artistic purpose or not only representation for the sake of it.
Exactly, and I didn't finish, and I wanted to finish the idea because, of course, the responsibility is on us creators a lot, because we create the films. But I want to put responsibility in the institution, in the money, and on the way also that we make films. You know, like how much time do you spend on a place when you go to a settlement? No, how much time do you spend there, living there, Roma or not Roma? Okay, how much time do you spend then doing a film? How much people from the place you involved in the film? It's more difficult to do that because it's more money, it's more expensive because you need to teach, you need to introduce these people that are not from the film industry into a film industry process. But at the end, when you do a film with them, with the community, it's a long time. It's out of the industry. A normal standard of industry wouldn't allow that. So, for instance, I don't know, in the way that we try to do films is like, it's not only the film. Like, I try to put the politics beyond. So, how the film is done, you know? So, I don't know, I'm not example for anything, but we were doing some workshop for years, you know, with the kids. So later they can be the actors, but good actors, that they are there playing a role that they can play themselves, but other roles too. So it's a matter of that. And this is money, it's time, it's effort, because I didn't have money for that, and I paid with my time and my sleep and a lot of effort. And this is not happening and I had to do it out of a production system that is producing my film, my feature. The fight is to try to introduce these processes on a normal or more normative industry process, you know. So the decision makers that are there funding, they need to understand that there should be maybe an extra money for that processes. So the film, the production of a film doesn't arrive to a community like an elephant or like a truck arriving, shooting in 4 weeks and ciao, you know. This is what I'm talking about. So I want to put the responsibility a lot on that.
Just 3 things, if I can just add fast. I'm wearing this t-shirt where it says, "Be aware, dark-skinned gypsy," but on the back it says, "I'm Roma and I will not steal your children," because of this, some of you nod already, and you know the case of the blonde angel versus the dark-skinned gypsy, so that's why it's the term gypsy, and on the back it's Roma. Second, I would like to just say that in terms of diversity and voices and stuff, and I hope you would agree with me, I am a woman, I am Roma, but I would never want to be chosen, to have my film chosen because I'm a woman or Roma. Never, ever in my life. No. First of all, I too see films that are, or theater or something that is made by Roma, and I don't like it. Yes, because we speak about a standard, an artistic standard that we will not really lower just because they're Roma. No, I do not agree with this, and I would never want to be selected in a film festival because I'm Roma and woman. But what happens when I just made a film, yeah, and the film selector says to me, "Oh, Alina, you're hitting men." And can you please stop with this discrimination? That is the bad part. When I am the only Roma voice in Romania up front, there might be other Roma voices, but they hide their identity for some reason. Anyway, and the biggest festivals in Romania had shut their doors through my face. And the film has the standard. And it has everything we put in. That is the hurt that we feel. And the third point I forgot, I'm sorry.
I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'm going to combine two questions and start with you, Timeo. I mean, with all of this non-Roma fascination with Roma, and this is building on your work, does it sometimes feel that the Roma have been deprived of their right to produce, present, and interpret Romani culture? And who has the monopoly over the discourse concerning the Roma? And I'm going to add to that. It is often said that there are two elements required for racism to be really effective: prejudice and power. In your opinion, have instruments of political, social, and cultural power, including governments, museums, film festivals, film funding bodies, played a role in codifying and enforcing prejudices concerning the Roma? And if so, how?
I just gave an example about that. Just selectors in general, selectors in festivals that do not come from, many times, from any diverse background, and they select films from their bubble, their jokes, their class. And that's hard when you have to explain to people in power that there are people that don't know what having a room means. And they're like, oh, why is that important? Sorry, Tima.
If I may just say that when we want to imagine why do we have a discussion on Roma in Cannes, and what does this panel really mean here, we need to understand that we are all part of the system that is the structural racism, that is the system of exclusion. Roma were here in the 9th century in Europe, and the monopoly of Roma representation for 600 years really have been the monopoly of non-Roma. The first Roma self-representations really come from the 1960s and 1970s. Look at us, I just checked out my badge, and so it's the 76th festival. And the first time that we had any Roma representation with Tony Gatliff in 1998, I believe. So this is outrageous. 1895, the Venice Biennale opened its doors, and for 111 years, there wasn't a Roma cleaning lady who participated in the Venice Biennale. So structural racism is invisible. We have to make an effort to visibilize it for all minorities, not just for the Roma. And also, it's important to say that we always ask not for money, we ask what can we contribute. So we are here to consult, to create platforms for the discussions necessary to create proper representations. We can bring a bit of money because Creative Europe, Euroimage, and European Union, also state funding, so national film funds, are now having a strict diversity point system, so we can assist in giving you those few points that might lead to successful grant making. And we have no misconceptions that this money might mean getting the seat at the table that Alina has mentioned before. And the third thing is, and the most important from my perspective, is the stories that we bring. Because we refer to the subjective stories, the biographical stories, the underdog, but we bring stories of survival, resilience, fantastic stories, not just during the Holocaust when we were the true partisans, not just during oppressive regimes where we participate in the fights, the political fights for freedom and equality, but also stories of, just the everyday stories of the ordinary becoming heroic. So there's so much to offer.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to feel that? If not, my final question is, and this is, of course, for the film industry, what is the commercial benefit, if any, of improving representation and inclusion, whether of just the Roma or generally?
Just in my country, just to make an example, is that obviously we have so many Roma people that actually don't go to the cinema. We definitely have a problem with going to the cinema per se. In many countries, people don't go to the cinema. So there's a question there too. How can we make more people go to the cinema in general? And again, it's the art being exclusivist. We only create for certain type of people. No. But I would say that if we get some Roma stories, maybe at TV channels first, so that they can see themselves represented, we will have young people, and this is really my dream, to have Gypsy Queen, to have Alone at My Wedding at TV for free, so that they can see themselves and they could say, I could do that too. And then we have a generation that strives and goes to school, as I did with so many allies really helping me, allies from the non-Roma community. I'm here because a big village of non-Roma helped me being here. Not my privileges, no, not my, really, the ancestors just fought with slavery, with Holocaust, and they survived so I can be here. But the non-Roma helped me also be here. So if we have more stories on TV and cinema, we will bring more people to the cinemas. We will have, obviously, just also creators and all that. And the commercial business is that, just imagine these people that could really go to the cinema and pay that ticket if they are represented, if we can speak to them too.
Thank you. Zeljko?
So I think at least in European space, just to give some quantification, we, as Dimea said, 12 million people. So it's already a market. But the second thing is that the societies move into a new direction. This is not anymore the societies of Emir Kusturica selling his movies based on the worst stereotypes about Roma. Societies move. And if you look at today, how other industries are changing in terms of concern for participation of women, equal pay, concern for the climate, we are still far from perfect, but societies are moving. So reinforcing stereotypes will certainly still benefit in terms of profit. Producers will and others will benefit. But societies are moving in a new direction anyway. And I think besides 12 million Roma in Europe, there are also much bigger numbers of people who want to see something different. And we see this in the film industry already. We don't see it enough when it comes to Roma, simply because there are few and courageous in every domain of life that need to make a break. But I think we are close to that point. It's just the question, who's going to be the first, or who are going to be the first ones who will make the biggest impact at the beginning.
Thank you very much. And in the interest of time, maybe we have to close now, but perhaps it's fair to say that one way to view it is nothing about us without us. And on that note, let's have a round of applause for our panelists. You are all brilliant, and I've learned so much. So thank you. And thank you all for being here.